All right, today's screencast topic is the Enlightenment. And you can probably see a key word in there is light. And it's the idea of bringing reason or knowledge, being light to the world, and kind of stamping out superstition and ignorance, as they would say. And their idea was that reason can be used to solve our problems, and that use of reason is why it's also called the age of reason. Now, a few ideas the Enlightenment has. And this looks like a pretty big list, so we'll leave it here for a second so you can copy some. But let's go through these. Now, they argued that reason is what makes humans unique, especially from animals. Humans can think critically to solve problems more so than other animals can. It can be, and we can use that to solve our own problems in our lives, whether it's, hey, my route to work is taking me an hour, maybe if I go this way it'll take me half an hour. So solving problems using rational thinking. And when you have that reason, it'll free you from ignorance, superstition, and as you can see in possibly the case of the Americas, freeing you from unfair government. The founding fathers of our country were very big into listening to and reading Enlightenment thinkers' thought. Like Thomas Jefferson, for example, he pretty much took the Declaration of Independence from John Locke, who was an earlier Enlightenment thinker. They also said that the natural world has basic laws, and you can discover those through reason. For example, Isaac Newton, as you probably learned, with gravity, that is a natural law of the world he discovered through reason. Apple hit him on the head, he wondered why it fell, he used logic and reason to figure it out. And human behavior, looking at people individually, they said it's governed by natural laws. And this reflects later the social contract idea of several Enlightenment thinkers. And government itself should reflect the natural laws that humans are predisposed to believe in. Now, a few key philosophers to look at. First one is Thomas Hobbes. He's from England, and he writes a key book called The Leviathan. And it's basically saying government needs to be all-powerful, because Leviathan from mythology is a sea monster. It's really powerful. It can grab ships and sink them in no time. He wanted the government to be pretty much all-powerful. And he really favored the absolute monarchies that existed, especially in France. Wanted that very strong central government. And his kind of negative view on people was they were selfish, greedy, and you need that government to impose order or we will all go crazy. And so with social contract, he says people should give up some freedom for safety and order. His key thing, safety and order trump freedom. He said if there's something going on, if the purge is happening, people want safety and order over their freedom, basic freedoms. And you can see this happening several times in history with the French turning to Napoleon or the Germans turning to Adolf Hitler. They turn to dictators in times of extreme struggle where living safely is an issue. So you can sacrifice some freedom to live safely is basically his main idea. John Locke is another Englishman. He has a very big influence on our country because he inspires especially Thomas Jefferson. And he said people opposite of Locke are happy, tolerant, and reasonable, and we're all born with equal rights of life, liberty, and property. And it's government's purpose to protect those rights, and government should be able to get rid of that government if it doesn't do those key things. And you've probably heard something similar to life and liberty before, and that's from the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson just changes property to the pursuit of happiness. Now, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he's from France. He says people are born good, but society corrupts them. So he takes a middle ground between Locke's very happy view of people and Hobbes' very bad view of we're all greedy and horrible. He says we're born good, but then society changes us. And he really came up with the idea of social contract, where the government works to benefit the common good, and you have to give up some freedom for security. He's not as hardline as Hobbes saying you need a dictator to run your life, but he is saying you have to give up some freedoms. For example, some people might say it's really fun to drive your car really fast, but it's also not safe for others. If you go 75 in a 45, you can possibly hurt and kill somebody. So giving up our rights to speed at whatever speed we want is an example of social contract. We break that social contract, we get a ticket, and it keeps us all safe. And Rousseau especially despised inequality in society and said all people are equal. So especially civil rights leaders in our country like Martin Luther King definitely looked at Rousseau as an example to create equality in our country and break down inequality. Another Frenchman is Baron de Montesquieu, the Baron. And he really loved Great Britain, and his biggest thing was separation of powers. You need three branches that you don't need the king being also the person to you don't need somebody to make, enforce, and review the laws. Each one needs to be done by a separate body. And this is also where we get our system of government from, we have a legislative, executive, and judicial, and each one has a system of checks and balances to prevent one from becoming too powerful. So once again, Montesquieu is all about separating powers in government. Voltaire, he is the artist formerly known as Voltaire, as I like to say, because his original name is Francois-Marie Arouet, but Voltaire sounded better, I guess. And he was also French. He also got kicked out of France, but he struggled for justice, religious toleration, and liberty. And his main thing is separating church and state, where the church is not involved in daily affairs. And you can see that very greatly in our First Amendment, where it separates church and state. You're entitled to have your religious beliefs or not, but the government can't force you to have any religious beliefs. Thank you for watching this screencast.